It's T-Guy Ty here. A new update dropped, releasing a new Warframe and a weapon that I'm really interested in, so that's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video. There's a lot of things to talk about, not just in this video, but there's like so many new things that came out recently that I'm really interested in, so expect this channel to get pretty active soon. There's like 4 new Warframe augments, there's a few melee weapons that I'm interested in, and today I'm really just going to be talking about Oraxia and the Sciotid. I think it's called Sciotid. Uh, if I'm butchering that, I apologize. But anyways, we'll just go ahead and jump right into it. So, Oraxia first. Oraxia is a really, really fun Warframe. I'm having a lot of fun with her. And really, really deadly stuff. Um, is one downside that I think I'll talk about later, but anyways, this is Araxia. Really, really good looking Warframe, really, really good animations and stuff like that. Really good mobility and really good text. And we'll go ahead and jump into all of that. So we should start with the passive. You pretty much just saw it. Whenever you wall latch, boom, invisible for 8 seconds. Now, I can't just stay up here for 8 seconds and just stay invisible. You can see that it runs out. Like, as soon as I wall latch, it starts the countdown. That also includes just like the consistent wall latch from her 4th ability. If I'm sticking to this, eventually it will run out. Boom. So you can't just go AFK on a wall and expect yourself to just stay alive. So there's that. Really, really good for things like Arcane Arachne, Arcane Crepuscular, stuff like that, where you're going invisible or you're wall latching. Just good stuff. First ability, there's a few things we should talk about. First off, the range on this ability is insane. This was like 60% range. Well, I mean 160. I added 60, but I mean, look at the range on that. That's nuts. It doesn't look like it's doing much, but good stuff happens when, let me get somebody down to half health. If you get a marker on their head, insta kills them. Simple as that. So whenever you're playing as Araxia and you see a symbol over somebody's head, you can cast your first ability on them. And it goes without saying that it's only for the first ability, so if you helmet that ability off, you will not be seeing the markers. So, yeah. So let's go ahead and show off one more thing. If you use the first ability, it has a chance, it's not 100%, but it has a chance to proc your, what's it called? Parazon mods. This is hit and run, this is increased parkour velocity, this is power drain, this is, your next ability cast gets an extra like 50% strength. Those are Parazon mods. I'll go ahead and show you that those are the ones I have equipped. Right here. Boom. Power drain, hit and run. I think the reason why it's doing that is because it's considered a mercy kill. Because once they pass like a certain threshold, boom. Once they pass a certain threshold, you can insta-kill them. And it's like a specific animation, stuff like that, and as you can see, it procs it. But I wouldn't rely on it because I've like done some testing and I've like even made a few recordings. This is not my first try recording this video. And it just hasn't procced sometimes. So, if it doesn't proc, oh well, you can always do it again. But yeah, that's the first ability. And as you can see, it's summoning like a lot of health orbs and energy orbs, so it's really good for energy sustainability. And I highly recommend running mods like Equilibrium or like Purple Shards if you want to keep up with your energy. But me personally, I don't find any problems keeping up with my energy, even if I don't have like an energy ability on, like Nourish, this first ability. I have an Energized Munitions build, and I still don't have energy sustainability, even with negative efficiency. So, Anyways, second ability, which seems really good, but there is a downside I want to talk about. I think now's a good time to talk about the Sciotid. Sciotid is probably my new favorite secondary weapon. That's not an exaggeration. The All-Fire just groups enemies together. that in itself I find very useful. I don't even care about the stats of the weapon. If it's just grouping people for you, that's awesome, right? Really, really good stuff. All right, now with the Sciotid out of the way, we'll talk about it more later. But the second ability, if you have it active, the Sciotid will not group, because the second ability is a crowd control that like locks enemies down to the ground in an immobilized state like this, like caught up in cobwebs. So you won't be able to group. That's like the only downside that I have for this ability. Everything else is pretty good. It like slaps him with a corrosive proc. Well, not corrosive, toxin. But if you have if you have Archon Continuity, which I highly recommend putting on this Warframe, everything deals toxin damage. Therefore, everything will deal corrosive damage. It's just so worth putting that on there. But anyways, it deals a toxin proc, not over time, just like one initial one. And, it makes people more vulnerable to damage. So, it's really good for buffing your abilities or your just the damage of your abilities or your weapons, whatever you bring, whatever your playstyle is, even your companions and stuff. Yeah, really, really good. Third ability is probably one of my favorite abilities on her. And super simple stuff. We'll go ahead and group with that new secondary. But, third ability just shoots darts. They don't really have good punch throughs, so, if you have enemies grouped like this, you're not going to hit all of them. But super simple stuff. If an enemy dies and they've been affected by your first ability, they will summon a Scuttler. It's a little spider. Really awesome stuff. We'll go ahead and get a few more kills. As you can see, the little spiders are running around. They do a decent amount of damage. As you can see, like, it's starting to rack up. And the spiders also deal toxin damage. And it's considered ability damage, therefore it will proc corrosive stacks as well, and it'll armor strip for you if you have, Archon Continuity on your build. So yeah, I think that's really, really cool. You have a maximum of 10 of them. So you can see at the bottom right where my ability is, you can see the number 6. It's very similar to Necros, where it just shows you like at the ability slot how many you have summoned. So you just try to keep that at 10 throughout like most of your mission, and you should be chilling. That's like passive crowd control, because enemies are going to be like less focused on you and more focused on the spiders that are nipping at their feet. And yeah, overall, really, really good summoning ability. The last ability is a little complex, so we'll go at it a little bit at a time. First, we'll go over what I found that isn't in the ability description. Similar to the first ability, there's like a hidden tech, but this one's just like a movement thing. So, most people already know about the thing where, like, if you do a roll, instead of rolling it, you just sling over to wherever you're looking. But, there's two things that I notice a lot of people aren't really talking about. One of them, which, I mean, most people will already know, but if you missed it, you can latch to pretty much any surface. This is something you can't usually do with Warframes, but you can, like, ceiling latch. Obviously, you can't floor latch. If you go to the floor, you'll walk around. But you can ceiling latch, and I find that to be really awesome. So, if you didn't know, now you know. And another thing, we'll go ahead and do a little test. I'll make a waypoint right here. But this is a regular bullet jump. Almost made it. And this is with my fourth ability active. I'm pretty sure this gives you extra parkour velocity. Not a lot, but just know that whenever your fourth ability is active, you have extra movement. So, that's pretty cool. Most Warframes, I find the need to throw like 1, 2, sometimes if I'm flexible with it, 3 Tau Forged yellow shards just for parkour velocity, because I like to move around fast. This Warframe's movement is insanely fun, and you just saw that with the little hidden thing of the extra parkour velocity, that I don't find myself needing any yellow shards. So this is the first Warframe, besides maybe like Gauss or Volt, that I've felt has been really, really nice. And like Wisp, and well, you know what? We'll just say every speed frame. But this Warframe is not a speedster frame, and I find myself to be having a lot of fun with the movement. But Now that that stuff's out of the way, we should probably look at the ability description so that you can get a peek at what exactly is going on with this ability. There's a lot of things. So, we'll go ahead and look at this. The range is 120 meters. Now, what it's talking about for the 120 meters is simply being able to, do the wall latch from a distance. So, for instance, this is 77 meters. It's within 120, so I can go there. So, obviously, this room isn't big enough for me to showcase, like, not latching onto something. But, just know that with barely any range on your build, you can reach pretty much everything you see. So, that's really fucking cool. And we'll go ahead and hop right back into it so you can see more. Okay, so the max health increase, this is something that I kind of forget about every now and then, but your maximum health does increase whenever your fourth ability is active. Personally, I don't think it's necessary, but I mean, I'll take any buff that I can get. You have extra toxin damage imbued into your weapons, and if you're wall latching, it does even more. It's like double, I think. Really, really good stuff. And you have an innate explosion of toxin on kills, and that is also moddable with range. So really, really good stuff. I'll go ahead and show you something real quick. The Kuva Sobek, if you haven't seen, a lot of people have seen, but if you haven't seen, we'll go ahead and group some enemies together. If your fourth ability is active, we'll go ahead and launch on the wall for the extra damage. But if you have the Kuva Sobek, you get a kill with it, everybody dies. It's just a tech with the acid shells as well as the explosion damage with your fourth ability. Both of those work together, and it does insane damage to enemies around them. It scales very, very well. You can go very late steel path or, like possibly even level cap gameplay and nuke very large areas. So if you want to do that on a bigger scale, all you have to do is mod range. And you are kind of going to be limited by the range of the acid shells. So that's like the 15-meter radius. As you can see on my build, my range is only 8 meters. So if you wanted to get some more explosion radius, be my guest. You can go up to 15 and keep the tech going. Anything more than that, and you'll see people like get hit by some of it, but not all of it, and they won't like instant die. So, you know, if you do want to get the maximum potential of the Kuva Sobek combo, you can mod for 15 meters of range. But, my personal preference, I feel like literally every single one of these abilities has more than enough range with a simple stretch and cunning drift. Oh my gosh, that's one more thing I should say. I use cunning drift on this Warframe for the extra movement. This is one of the only Warframes where I don't use prime sure-footed because, you don't get staggered. Here, let me equip. Let me equip the. Let's equip an AOE just to show off the goodies. Fourth ability active, and I don't get knocked over. In your typical Oraxia gameplay, you're going to have your fourth ability active at pretty much all times, so do not be afraid to use AoE abilities, or not abilities. Do not be afraid to use AoE weapons and get knocked over. Good stuff. But you're not just immune to staggers, you're immune to, like, literally every status effect, so that is awesome. Anyways, we'll get right back into it. Obviously, you can wall latch and you get the extra damage. There's a lot of wall latching in our kit between going invisible with your passive and just being able to wall latch super easily with your fourth ability for the movement tech that it gets. As you can see right here in this build, I have Arcane Arachne. The two primary weapons that I'm doing in order to benefit from this would be the Sobek and the Ogress. Right here I have an Energized Munitions, and I was just like doing arbitrations and having a lot of fun with this Warframe. But yeah, I used Arcane Arachne because the two weapons I am using, I don't have crit builds on. I literally just have status builds, so I'm not going to benefit from like Arcane Crepuscular's like 3x critical damage. But if you are using a crit primary, definitely throw either this on, your Arcane Arachne, or your or you can throw on the Arcane Crepuscular. But me personally, I'm not using Crepuscular just because I don't find myself going invisible very much. Pretty much whenever my shield breaks, it'll kick in like, oh, I should wall latch. And besides that, I'm not using any crit primaries at the moment, so Arcane Arachne is just gonna benefit me better. And yeah, let's talk about another synergy. This is probably the build I use the most. It's just Nourish on the first ability. And the reason why is because the Scuttlers will take the Scuttlers, just like most other summonable companions. But let's go ahead and... Oop, didn't mean to do that. Boom. We'll spawn a Scuttler, and the Scuttler will it'll benefit from Nourish. It'll start proccing your, as you can see right here, it's got some viral on there. It's just really good stuff. So, you can buff your companions with Nourish. And that's pretty much the only reason why I run Nourish on this, besides the fact that I'm replacing a, one of those abilities that gives you energy with an ability that gives you energy. So, But as you can see, like, enemies, if my first ability is taken off, they don't have that symbol above their head. So, if you feel like you don't see that symbol above anybody's head, just know that your first ability is probably helmet off, and that's the reason why. But yeah, you can use Nourish on your spiders for extra damage. As well, Nourish has the exact same duration as your second ability. So, whenever you cast one, feel free to cast another. What else can I talk about for synergies? Well, I guess we can talk about the Archon shards. I have 3 Archon shards on this build. Well, I mean, I have 3 Tau Forged Archon shards on this build. They're all for the Toxin status effects because every single one of her abilities deals Toxin. So, might as well boost the damage of those. And your spiders will also deal Toxin damage, so that boosts the damage of your companions as well. And then I went with the extra corrosive stacks. Some people ask why I use 2 not Tau Forged shards for corrosive strip. It's because you need 14 exactly, and so 2 un-Tau Forged shards is enough for 14 exactly. Just a little tidbit of info there. And what else can I talk about? I guess I can talk about... Okay, so this is something I was thinking of. Should I use Adaptation or Rolling Guard? And I went with Rolling Guard just because the movement with your 4th ability is really good, and you're going to be invisible a lot of the time. So, you're already immune to status effects, so you're not going to be like stripping off any status effects, but it's more or less just giving yourself the invincibility temporarily. With most, if not all, of your invisibility Warframes, I highly recommend rolling guard on them just to stay alive better, because you'll always get hit by some type of like stray bullet or something, and having this helps a lot. Like I was saying earlier, I didn't really feel the need to mod for a lot of range. I just went with stretch and cunning drift. Whenever I'm running Nourish, I feel like I benefit a lot from the extra duration, as well as like the build with the energized munitions. I feel like having the extra duration with Augur Message, it just felt nice. And I have multiple builds just for like the summoning. I have the Arcane Commissado and Summoner's Wrath helping out with the spiders. I really love like summoner gameplay. Caliban was like my main for a little bit. Before he even got his rework, I was running Caliban, but that's not a flex or anything. So I highly recommend having Precision Intensify if you feel like benefiting a lot from your 4th ability, like extra damage. It's insane how much extra damage you get. Sorry, had to take a sip of water. But as you can see in this, I don't have Equilibrium on. Because I'm running Nourish and I'm not getting as many health orbs as usual. But if I'm using a setup where I am using the first ability with where I'm getting a lot of health orbs, you'll see me run Equilibrium, as well as setups where I'm just going to be using a hell of a lot of energy. Like, for instance, I'm going to be spamming energized munitions on this build, so, you know, having equilibrium helps out a lot. And, like I was saying earlier, Archon continuity is great. Everything deals toxin damage, might as well just have corrosive. That's pretty much everything I have to talk about with the Warframe build, so I guess we can go ahead and start talking about the secondary weapon. So, like I was saying earlier, the secondary weapon has the alt fire, where it's a 10-meter radius. It says it groups up to 8 enemies, but as you can see from before, I'm not sure if it was a glitch, but I mean, obviously I'm pulling way more than 8 enemies. I'm summoning 20 and they're all getting pulled. Um, I'm not sure if multi-shot has anything to do with that, but as you can see from here, the alt fire doesn't. It says like a 2.7, but it's not very visual. It just looks like a tiny little thing. So, you know, it's hard to see the multi-shot, but, you know, I guess it is there. So that's probably the only reason why I am pulling as many enemies as I am. But as you can see, boom, super easy to just group a lot of people together. And, you know, since you're grouping enemies with this weapon, I highly recommend using status effects like gas, electricity, some type of element that does like AoE, because it's just easy to kill groups of enemies like that. As you can see, the time to kill on that was like fairly low, but not exactly that impressive. But like once I have already gotten a few kills, the time to kill goes it goes down pretty fast. Boom. And let's just keep in mind the fact that let's just be real, this is a weapons platform Warframe with the ability to summon. So, you know, obviously we can just group our dudes, we can cast every buff and debuff that we can get, while Law Latch for the extra damage. I mean, look at that, that's just nuts. That was like 6 throws. And 6 throws was really good. Also, I just love kunai weapons. Me personally, I haven't found a kunai weapon in a while that I actually liked, so I'm glad that I got one. And it just so happens to group, which is even better. Yeah, really, really good stuff. There's one more thing that I wanted to talk about, and I feel like we can jump into that real quick. I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier, but I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but if enemies are locked down like this, they don't get grouped by your skioted pull. So that's like the only downside that I really found. But anyways, I guess that's all I really have to talk about. So yeah, really, really good stuff. I love this secondary weapon. I love the Warframe. I mean, look at the animations on this. This is great. I love this. The only thing I don't like about the animation is just the little, you know, whenever you decast, you don't have an animation for like going back to yourself. It's just woof. But really, really good stuff. And also, I heard she has custom footsteps. Like, obviously, this sounds unique, but you can hear like the little scuttle. If you turn up your volume, you can hear the scuttle. And I guess it sounds different from like every other Warframe, so we'll go ahead and try that out real quick. Oh yeah, that sounds like a more bulkier footstep. So we'll go ahead and try one more. Yeah, I think she has custom footsteps. We'll go ahead and listen to it one more time. Wow. Okay, well, that's something unique. I just tested that right now. But yeah, that's about all I really have to talk about today. So one more time, I will be testing out a lot of things later on. You know, there's 4 new augments I'm really interested in. I think they're for Jade, Kalervo, Caliban, and last one I can't remember off the top of my head. But they all sounded like really, really nice. And there's 2 melee weapons. Oraxia's melee weapon sounds really nice with her specifically, like the extra toxin explosions, as well as I think it's called the Thallus, the scythe. It sounds really, really unique, and I really want to try that out. So maybe I'll make a new Kalervo build and run those melees. Who knows? But that's pretty much all I really have to talk about. So, everybody that stuck around to the end, I really appreciate you. If you have anything that you found, feel free to leave them in the comments, as well as just let me know how I'm doing. Anything you want to add, you can let people know. And I appreciate everybody that's supported me so far. You're all awesome, and I appreciate you very much. That's all I really have to talk about, so I'll see you in the next video. Deuces.